Hi, everyone. It's 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. We are again joining Jeff Jacobson and having a discussion regarding questions related to unemployment. There have been a lot of questions coming in and a lot of answers that Jeff has been able to provide us. Sara Sadat is actually on that side of the camera today. She's handling the producing technical aspects of getting the questions answered and on air. So just want to make sure that everyone who has an opportunity or a desire to dialogue with Jeff regarding some issues related to the filing of unemployment has that situation. So I'm not going to further delay this. Jeff, give me a thumbs up if you are ready to be popped up on air, and Jeff is giving the thumbs up. We are going to put him on air right now. Jeff, thank you again for joining us. Looks like we have quite a few viewers who are already on with us today. And one thing I'm going to mention, if you've been with our seminars before, you know this. If you want to pop up and ask your question yourself, click at the link on the top of the post and you'll be able to patch in and dialogue with Jeff. You can also put your comments, questions on here, and we will get them asked to Jeff. Jeff, how are you this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, almost afternoon. So I'm doing well. It's been busy. Actually, people have been calling me and getting hold of me since 7:30 this morning.
Starts early for you these days.
Yeah, it's fine. It's I don't leave the house at 7:30, so it's my satellite office. But yeah, it's been pretty hectic. And I was just reading that 3.8 million people have filed for the first time for unemployment since the 20th. And 30 million people have filed for the first time for unemployment since the middle of March. So we've got a lot of people that are potential viewers. I mean, that's a huge audience, 30 million.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Let me ask you this. You said since 7:30 you've been getting questions. What are some of the common questions that you've been getting? Are they kind of in line with some of the other ones we had been discussing? I know there's a lot of gig workers who are wondering what's going to happen when they can file as well. What are some of the ones you've heard?
So the questions I'm getting, and they're calling me because they're unique. There's, the typical end results is they're not getting their benefits. They're not able to certify. Some of them, there's some glitch with the system. They had to call in. One of the ones that was a little disturbing, and let's step back a second. So if you file for unemployment benefits, it's retroactive to the date that you were severed from work. Your hours were reduced, or you were laid off, or you couldn't go because you had to stay home with the kids, or because of COVID-19. So it's that date that your unemployment starts. Someone called, they had problems. They called in, they got a hold of someone. They were able to set up their claim, but the person said all they can go back is 1 week. Well, that's not the rules. The rules now, because their system and everything is not working, it goes back to the date that you were severed. So we're going to be working with that person to try to solve the problem. Once again, it may be that the appeals is the only route to solve it.
And we actually had a caller yesterday who had a very similar situation that they were told that, hey, this is only going to be a week that we can go back. So clearly you're saying that this is not the case and shouldn't be the case, and that shouldn't be an acceptable answer.
Right. That's not what the department said early on. When you couldn't get through, you still can't get through. That's not what they said. I don't know how they're able to just go back 1 week. I don't know where they're getting the authority. But if people aren't getting their full benefits from the date of severance, the next step, and you have 30 days, is to file an appeal, because based on the rules that I've been hearing, is it goes back to the date of severance. And most people are getting that. People that have filed are getting going back to the date of severance. Eventually it's going to go back to the date that you first contact IDS. So if, there's some people that have been laid off since March, and I'm not sure exactly why, in the last week they're first contacting IDS to apply. I mean, they should have been doing it a long time ago, but they may not be able to get through.
You know what? I'm looking at some of the questions that have come in the last few hours at the Illinois Unemployment Guidance Group. My boyfriend worked in Florida until November of last year and then began working in Illinois from November last year until COVID-19 showed up and he was out of work as of the end of March. Because of this, the Illinois system doesn't show his work pay from the first 3 quarters of last year. Is there a way to upload this information or speak to someone to have them let us know how to provide that information? I know, Jeff, you and I have dealt a lot with this with some of the freelancers and daily hires in the broadcast industry where they were doing work that was going to the New York unemployment office and they needed to get to their home states. Any general guidance for that?
So they're going to have to, if they apply in Illinois, and wherever they apply, they're going to have to submit to the state the wages they received, whatever document they have, if it's the W-2 statement, pay stubs, but they're going to have to show, and once again, the base period is a 1-year period. In Illinois, there's 2 base periods. The main one is the 5th quarter ago to the 2nd quarter ago. That's the 12 months that your wages are critical. So if you were working in other states and getting benefits, you may need to produce those documents and request it. If there's not enough benefits in those 4 quarters, you can ask for an alternate year, which is the last 4 quarters, the last full 4 quarters. So some people may have not worked 5 quarters ago, and so their base period is going to show, no income in that quarter, but they've been working the last 4 quarters. So they'll request an alternate base period, assuming they know to request it and understand it.
Jeff, a quick question. I know this worked for some of our people, is that they contacted the unemployment office in the state that had received some of the wages and requested that it be forwarded to the Illinois office. Is that something that you've advised clients, or do you know if that is a generally good practice? Is that a best practice? And then again, I'm sure they can always look to the appeal process to submit this information when it comes.
Right. So yes, but so any documents they have to show their wages or work. Once again, typically the W-2s that they receive from the employer, pay stubs will help. Anything that can get the state started to calculate in their weekly benefit amount.
All right. Let's see. I'm going through some other questions, but if you got some right now, just give me 1 sec. But yeah, if you could go over some of the other questions that you've seen or gotten.
Yeah, there's. I don't know if anyone can see. I'm going to try to share my screen. I don't know if you can see that, and I apologize if you can't. But I've gotten a question. The IDS, due to the high volume of employment insurance claims currently being filed, you may have experienced a delay in receiving your UI finding. The UI finding includes instructions regarding the day of the week that you will certify and your first certification date. If you've not received your UI finding in the mail, please certify for payment of benefits on Thursday or Friday of this week. Once you receive your UI finding, please file the certification instruction, include the document. So, as we talked about, every 2 weeks, you need to certify. You can go online to certify if you want, or you can call in to certify. I recommend going online, but if you want to call in, the teleserve number is 312-338-4337. And it's from 3 a.m. till 7:30 p.m. You can go in. If you do the telephone one, you'll need to create a PIN. So you create a personal identification number. You can also change your PIN. Some people have been having problems with the PIN. If you're having problems and you can't reset it by calling in, the only way you can do it is to call in to IDS, and that number is 800-224-5631. If you miss your date to certify, they want you to call in the following Thursday and Friday. So if you miss your date to certify, you're given Monday, and you miss it, Thursday or Friday, you need to call in. If you don't certify, your unemployment insurance terminates, and then you create a whole bunch of problems. If you don't certify and it terminates, you need to file an appeal immediately. Once again, there's a 30-day deadline for filing your appeal.
30-day deadline. We had another question, and this kind of relates. It's tangenting away from the procedures of unemployment, but until we start getting some more questions, I think it's worth looking at, because I know, Jeff, you had mentioned this before, what the stay-at-home order means in terms of some of the benefits that you get with unemployment, that when the stay-at-home order is no longer effective, that certain protections or is it conditions would not be applicable to filing for unemployment. Like, we have a question here relating to the potential of mayors and managers writing a letter to the governor about reopening the village and cities. Would certain protections be lost if that were to happen?
So under the current one is let's go on the law before COVID-19. If you had to stay home because daycare, wasn't working, your kids were home from school, you were not entitled to unemployment benefits. If you stayed home because you were fearful of catching something at work, you were not entitled to unemployment benefits. So now, because of the governor's order to stay at home, you can stay at home and collect unemployment benefits. You have no control over it. Once the governor eases up and requires you, or not requires you, but allows you to go to work, a lot of these stay-at-home or benefits are going to drop. For example, during the summer, if your kids are home and you have to watch them and you quit your job or stop showing up because of that, you're not entitled to unemployment benefits. There's an exception now because of what's going on. So there's a possibility the governor will modify the order so that people that need to stay home because their kids are home from school now will still be able to get unemployment benefits. I don't know what's going to happen during the summer, because typically, that's under the 601, section 601. If you have to stay home because of daycare, and a lot of people this happens to, you're not entitled to unemployment benefits. So that's the downside of the governor, not requiring people to stay at home. So these lawsuits that are pending may be problems for some people that have no other choice but to stay home with their young kids. You can't leave a 7-year-old home alone to go to work. So now it will be a choice between losing your job or taking care of your kids.
Another question that has come up. So I got approved for unemployment and I had to certify for the week yesterday online. I updated my direct deposit because I didn't get a card, but it didn't give me any information as to how long it would take to get paid or what day. Does anyone have any sort of inclination about this information? Jeff, I know we've had quite a few questions about the direct deposit and sometimes the card's not working that we've advised. Do you by chance have any idea as to how long is an acceptable waiting period?
So 2 weeks, 14 days. If you filed on a Sunday, I would do then the Monday following the 2 weeks. But it looks like you're either getting stuff, you're getting the letter saying these are your call-in days, you're getting your debit card, direct deposit set up. Any of that stuff should happen in 2 weeks. One thing we got to start right from the beginning, you need to have gotten a claimant number. If you didn't get a claimant number when you applied, you haven't applied. So if you think you've gone through the whole system online and they didn't give you a claimant number, my recommendation is if you haven't received anything, get back online and file a claim, get a claimant number. I talked to someone, they actually called in, there was some mess up, and the person at the local office said they're all set up, but didn't give them a claimant number. So you're going to really need that claimant number. It's really beneficial. But about 2 weeks in a normal situation, you would be receiving everything within 2 to 3 days of it happening. And also, I've been hearing people are going to the status for their payments from unemployment, and it's saying it's been deposited. Well, that doesn't mean it's been deposited. It means it will be, and it's coming up, and you're in a good situation, but it's still taking time to get it into the bank account or in your debit card. One other thing, highly recommend you go to direct deposit if you have a checking account. It's less problems than the debit card, and the state prefers a direct deposit account, but you got to do whatever you can do.
Understood. And a couple other questions have come up, and I apologize to viewers if you hear anything. Myra, you want to come and say hello? So that's the kid demanding ice cream and making a mess trying to get it. So apologize for any background noise you have. Hopefully none of that came through, but if it did, that's what you're hearing going on here. We have a question coming in. Selena asks, what information verification will be needed from self-employment workers who are subcontracted? Great question.
So they're probably going to need their 1099 information. I don't know yet exactly what they're going to need. I know for the payroll protection program, they wanted 1099s. They wanted financial stuff. You'll have to certify that financial information is accurate. Maybe tax returns, maybe profit and loss statements. I'm not exactly sure what it is they're going to want, but I'm guessing it's going to be in line with the payroll protection program requirements for subcontractors. And there's something else I want to discuss. So some of these people that have been laid off are losing their insurance benefits. And some of them, that's a big problem because they have medical conditions. There's a couple options. There isn't a perfect solution for everyone. The employer may have COBRA. COBRA becomes to be very expensive, but you can also go to the Affordable Care Act website, the marketplace. If you're not making any money, and depending upon what your income has been this year and will be, you might get tax incentives or health insurance through that. So there are alternatives. You should seek them out, and depending upon your ability, figure out what's best for you and your family. But that's been another byproduct of being laid off, as some employers have stopped insurance.
Another question, actually, from the same person. Selena asked, what if I don't have a copy of my 1099? And that's a good question. Is that something that you should be able to get your employer to reissue, or how would that work?
So you can contact the employer. You may be able to contact, if you filed it already, that's be the only reason you wouldn't have it. You may be able to get a transcript from the IRS. You can do that. It goes back and forth. You should be able to do that online and request the transcript from the IRS. But your employer should probably, they should have it for several years. So hopefully they give it to you if you don't have it.
All right. So, and some people are asking, how do they, and I'm responding to them right now, how do they bring themselves onto the live stream? And the answer would be to click on the link in the description above. There should be a link there. You click on that and it'll punch you up where we can put you on air. It's always better to ask your question specifically, Seth. I would encourage you to do the same. I'm going to read your question out, but if you have any follow-up questions, the best way would always be to be able to dialogue with Jeff in particular. So click link on top. I'm going to write that in the comments here. And Seth, let me read your question out here. What if it's not showing any payment history? I have a claimant number, ID number, and I've certified. I just don't know when I'm getting paid. I filed back in March.
Okay, so that's way too long to not receive payment. If you filed in March and you've not received any payments, several problems, Seth. One of them may be there's not been any income, any wages reported. As we talked about, there's several reasons. One is you may be a 1099, not W-2. The other one is your employer may be out of state. You were working out of state, so nothing got reported. But you should have received some documentation as to what your weekly benefit amount was, how much you're getting, whether you're getting dependency payments. So you should have received something. If not, I would call. The number is 800-224-5631. I'm being told if you do the prompts 2256, and that's on the Facebook page you can find, that helps you get through. And then you can always call me, and my number is 331-222-9529, or you can go to our website for more information at jeffjacobsonlaw.com. But it's, in situations like that, you need to do something. You also, if you're not getting your money, you need to file an appeal. I believe the appeal forms are on our website. If not, I'll make sure they go up today. Or you can contact us to do appeal, because those are a little more like a legal process. It's a hearing. The witnesses are sworn in, they testify, and that becomes a permanent record. If you say something wrong or don't put right information, you may not be entitled to benefits. Right. And I'm looking, there's a lot of people with questions, so they're flying by sometimes.
Yeah, let's get to one right now. So how should I upload my pay stubs is the most recent one that came in. And I'm going to, while you answer that, look at some of the other ones that are coming through.
So for the unemployment for W-2 pay stubs, I'm not aware of any way to upload them. You submit those, you send those into IDS. They'll have a document they should have sent you asking for it. If not, you can send it to 33 South State, the 8th floor, Chicago, Illinois, 60603. Keep a record of everything. Make a copy of what you sent in. If it doesn't get corrected, you'll need to file an appeal. Once again, those appeals should be done within 30 days so you don't lose your rights. And that's currently how you're going to have to do it. On the 1099 sole proprietor independent contractor aspect of the software that's coming up, that most likely they're going to have a portal to upload the documents, because they're going to need them, because they're not going to have any of the documents related to that.
Okay, another question that's coming in. My husband has protested a non-monetary as he was seeking work waiver and answered no, he wasn't looking. We've heard this quite a bit. We're on week 6. What can we do?
So the thing is, because of the COVID-19, even though you're stuck in the house, you're supposed to say you're able and available and actively seeking work. If your job is closed down, then you need to, search at least 3 employers. You have to make 3 contacts a week, whether it's telephone, obviously in person isn't going to work, post something on the website, email, those kinds of things. You have to do 3 a week. If, though, it's been a while, 30 days, is the time frame to appeal, you do need to file an appeal. I would call up, though, let them know that you answered the certification wrong and that you want to change it. They may be able to change it over the phone. And Tegan Ryan, speaking of the phone, says it keeps getting disconnected. Yes, it's happening a lot. There's not enough people to answer the phone. I've heard people say that call at 8:30 in the morning, start calling. Unfortunately, your main job now is going to be calling into IDS. There's no way to solve that absent writing a letter and appealing. I'm not a big fan of writing the letter because I don't know how long it's going to take and who's looking at the documents that you send in. But once again, if it takes too long, you may need to file an appeal to do that. So I haven't seen these questions, but you should be getting $600 a week. There's been discussion when it goes back. Some people from unemployment have been telling people that call in that it's only, this week is all they're getting. It started on March 29th. It's retroactive. So if you get benefits going back that far, you'll get your $600, and then it continues. And then also the federal government. So your unemployment benefits last for 26 weeks. The federal government has extended that.
Fantastic. And it was just brought to my attention that there were two different links on the Facebook post. Sarah's trying to rectify that right now. So if you can click on that link, that should be at the very top. If you want to ask your questions, you can make sure to get your questions answered. And I apologize if it looks like I'm walking around, but that's the way to get to Sarah to let some of this information be known about what some of these issues are. And again, please do punch up or click the link and we can punch you up so you can specifically ask your questions and get follow-ups so that we are making sure your question is thoroughly answered. Nicole asks, not sure if you can help, but I was approved. Just got the papers in the mail on the 27th saying I had to certify on the 29th, which I did. But everything I try to check up the updates, it says I haven't set up my PIN in 30 days. But I didn't know about it for more than a week. When I call, it's saying call back at a later time and it hangs up. What should I do?
So to certify, call on Thursday and Friday. If that doesn't work, you'll have to call into local office. And I just, so we're seeing a lot of questions. My answers are pertaining to Illinois. Some states may follow it. The unemployment benefits is actually created by the Federal Social Security Act. So there's a lot of similarities throughout the nation on unemployment benefits, but the requirements of phone numbers are different. So the 800 phone number that we've been giving out is for Illinois. If you're listening from another state, I don't have the numbers for every state.
Sarah as well, because I know we have a lot of viewers today from Michigan. I'm sure Sarah will punch that up and get that question or that phone number out there as well. And we'll also put it in the description. But so if you are, please actually do write the state that you are calling from so we have an idea if the applicable information is Illinois related or different.
Right, because I can only focus on the law in Illinois, but most states, like I say, are very similar. The federal act applied to all states, so it's the thing that's happening in Illinois is nationwide.
Another question from Selena, but Selena, I'd encourage you because it seems like there's multiple parts to your question to dial in so you can get all your answers. I'm going to read a question from Catherine. I was denied regular UIA and filed a PUA and got paid 1 week, and now all other 4 weeks states additional claims required. I can't get a hold of anyone. I'm out of work due to a doctor mandated letter to coronavirus.
So, and it sounds like she may be from another state. The unfortunate thing is, like in Illinois, you have to keep trying to call. So I can give you, talk about what the law is, give you recommendations. I can't correct anything that the state messes up. So it's, under the Federal Social Security Act, you have 30 days to appeal. If you're, close to that, I would recommend filing an appeal if you don't believe the benefits you're getting is calculated correctly or done correctly. But, if it's been 4 weeks that you're getting to 28 days, you're getting to a dangerous period of time where it may be take it or leave it. So if you can't get a hold of someone, definitely file for an appeal, because that's critical. And some of the states have the pandemic benefits already implemented. Illinois is not going to have it till May 11th for the sole proprietors.
Tegan, we have punched you up. Hopefully you can hear us. Can you hear us on the show?
Yes, I can.
Okay. You have a question, please. Tegan, you're from Michigan. Okay. And we put on the number if you're watching the live stream for all our viewers from Michigan, what the phone number is for Michigan. But I'm going to let you ask Jeff your question.
Okay, Jeff. So I was the one where my husband had done the protest because he had answered he wasn't looking for work. So when we had called in, we had talked to a lady and she had told us that basically there was nothing she could do over the phone for us, is that we just had to continue to wait. If I try to get through maybe early morning, and can I ask for like a certain department or something that can get this solved?
So someone should be able to help you. There's for example, in Illinois, there's a training issue. Sometimes you'll get someone that knows what the new act and procedures and rules are, and sometimes you'll get someone that has been doing it for 20 years. So a lot of stuff has changed since the middle of March, and that may be the problem. Although, as I pointed out, if you're not getting anything done, it's not getting rectified, you should definitely file an appeal, because then there'll be an administrative law judge that'll be able to hear the facts. The time is set aside for your hearing. It's not a 30-second phone call. You'll present all the facts, and the administrative law judge will be able to make a decision and change, rectify, correct whatever happened. So when I was an administrative law judge, if at the local office something wasn't right, I had the power to change anything. I could send it back to the local office to correct it. That's the goal. So that would be my recommendation if you're running out of the 30-day time to file an appeal. There should be on the website all the information on how to do it.
Okay, I guess I will double check and look and see if I can find where to file the appeal. And you said that gives us a date set aside for us. How quickly does that usually, is that like a 30-day thing we're looking towards?
So the quickly thing, I can tell you over the last 30 years up till the middle of March, in Illinois, it's approximately 2 weeks you'll have your hearing. Now, I don't know when you'll have a hearing. And that's part of the problem. So unemployment nationwide was designed to get benefits to people immediately to help them with their housing and their food, the basic necessities. Illinois' calculation is 47% of your normal wages. So it's not to completely replace lost wages. It's just they've calculated that's the essentials to continue living, for food and housing. So it's designed to move rather quickly. It's just not right now. So unfortunately, I don't want to guess at how long it's going to take, because that won't help. If it takes you like a week of calling, we've had listeners saying they're calling 200-300 times before they finally get on. That's unfortunately what you need to do. But file an appeal, and you can file an appeal now, and maybe it gets rectified before the appeal.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you for calling
Sorry
in.
this is happening.
And just to, because we have a lot of people who haven't been on the stream before, who are actually joining us from Indiana and Michigan. So just to give you kind of an idea of what we're doing, Jeff and I finally counted. This is our 10th or maybe 11th, okay, because there was a couple of private shows that we, a couple of shows that we did not in this public format where it was a call and take, but more like a Zoom technology kind of a thing. And so what Jeff and I have done is Jeff has a lot of experience with unemployment, and I have some experience with technology, video, and my wife, Sara Sadat, who's behind the scenes today, has the IT background. We're trying to get the information disseminated to people regarding what they need to know with unemployment. We've been able to answer a lot of questions in Illinois. We've now actually had some interest from Indiana and Michigan as well. Getting some general questions answered, which is why we're getting a lot more Michigan, Indiana questions today. But yeah, Jeff, tell me again, why is it that we're doing this?
We're doing it because we want to help people. There's a lot of people that are suffering and they need somewhere to go. IDS isn't able to answer all the calls. There's not a forum yet for this. The governor goes on and reports about the COVID-19, which is critical. So we've created a forum to talk about what's going on with unemployment, to help people out, to get people together and work together to benefit everyone. This is a very trying time for people that are stuck at home, and unable to get unemployment benefits and wages is a disaster. It's very hard to get by. We see a lot of wonderful people out there, the doctors, the nurses, the firefighters, the police, law enforcement, that are on the front lines and working. I'm unable to do that. So all I can do is offer, help with IDS, the legal part of it. So that's why we do it. And I know, Raza, that's why you're doing it every day. I'm sure you don't enjoy listening to me for an hour every day.
Well, and I'll give you a background about how we teamed up. I'm the vice president of a broadcasting union, and a lot of our workers who work in the sports industries, that industry was pretty much decimated in the short term by what's going on. So Jeff helped a lot of our people filing. And again, there were issues with W-2s, 1099s going to the wrong state because the employers were in different states. And so Jeff worked to try to help rectify those positions. We got a lot of very positive feedback that people gotten some guidance that they did not know how to go about before. So we started doing this more community-based and getting the information out there. And another thing we always say is when you look at the comments, you'll see people are answering each other's questions. It's this kind of organic networking that I think has been very beneficial byproduct of doing these Facebook Lives online seminars. So I think, so to answer your question, do I enjoy it? It's just necessary. Like you said, it's absolutely necessary and imperative that we get this information out there to people who absolutely need it. And in doing these seminars with you, I've learned things, some things I thought I've been able to correct. And again, that helps my membership as well, because I'm able to give them proper guidance as to what they are entitled to. And if we can answer questions as they're coming in.
So there's actually a tip that, sorry, Raza.
Oh, no, that voice of God you're hearing, if you are just tuning in for the first time, is Sara Sadat, my wife, who's usually sitting here, but she's producing off camera today. And taking in questions from certain groups.
Yeah, don't make me blasphemous during this time of the Holy Month for me. But there are Illinois employment guidelines. There's some tips that have been posted from this awesome person, Marty Jane, around how to speak to a human being on the Illinois unemployment guideline. Basically, it says, if you're in Illinois, go ahead and call that 800 number. 800-244-5631, press 1 or 2 for your desired language, and then it gives you a prompt to say going online. If it hangs up on you, call back immediately. If not, if it goes into the 600 for the stimulus, stay online. Eventually, you will get answered. There are options that you can press at this point, either 1 for employer or 2 for individual. Then when you press 2, For no, I have not worked outside for Illinois in the past 18 months, then you can press 5, then you can press 6, and after that, you press 6 again, and you should be able to talk to a human being. So this person, Marty Jane, and if you guys need any visuals, I'm going to try to share this on our Illinois Unemployment Guideline page, as well as any other page that I have access to.
I wonder if maybe you can punch it up on the live stream here as a shared screen. I think that would be beneficial to all of our viewers who kind of want to see it. I don't know if there's a way to
it's not
magnify
very
that.
pretty, but you guys have this available on the Illinois Unemployment Guidelines. This is a very quick, navigatable way to get to speaking to a human being on the Illinois side. I apologize, I don't have any access to Michigan or Indiana or any of the other sites, but this one for sure seems to have worked, and it's been tried and tested. So go ahead and follow that prompt.
Yeah, and we'll put a screen grab of this on for public consumption on the groups as well, so that you can see it and kind of walk your way through it. But again, this is just one of those examples of collaborative, just information sharing, where people are telling us, hey, make sure to get this information out there. This has worked for me. Let's try this route. So that's been a very pleasant byproduct of doing these seminars, is having people kind of share their experiences and what's worked for them.
And I wanted to answer the questions. So Colleen asked about the quarters. So there's two. The base period, that's what it's referred to, is the 5th quarter go, the 4th quarter, the 3rd quarter, and the 2nd quarter. Those are your 4 quarters for your yearly base period. And that's what your wages are calculated on for the Department of Employment Security. If those numbers are not as good as the last 4 quarters, which would have been the 1st quarter of 2020, I got to go backwards, the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd quarter of 2019. If those numbers are better, you can ask to use the alternate base period, and they will calculate it. So hopefully that answers your question, Colleen, and thanks for asking that, because a lot of people don't know how it's calculated.
Fantastic. It looks like, unless, Sarah, you're getting more questions on any other groups, it looks like, Colleen has a follow-up question. Do you know the dates?
Dates for what?
The quarters, I believe.
The quarters.
Hold on.
And I'm just...
So the alternate quarter will be January, February, March of 2020, and then it'll be the April through December of 2019 will be your alternate quarter for the, and I got to think about this, for the regular base period. It's the first quarter of the last quarter of 2018, which is October, November, December, and then the next 9 months. Did I get that right? No. It's actually, it'll be, right now it's the 2019. Your whole income from 2019 will be your base period.
All right. Just looking to see, it looks like most of the comments I'm seeing here have been answered. Sarah, I'm going to defer to you, see if there's any questions coming in that I haven't seen on any of the other venues or groups.
No, basically they're having difficulty getting a hold of a live person, and I understand where all of this is coming from. So try it.
Sure, just hold the microphone a little closer to you.
Yeah, certainly. So go ahead and try the tip that was presented for getting a hold of somebody on the Illinois side. Again, we will share that with you. Other than that, there really hasn't been too many other types of questions. Pretty much the similar stuff. One can, when can we file? How quickly should we file? And I think we've answered this all in the past. File as soon as you can. If you are no longer employed, go ahead and do that. None of that has changed. And we have other town halls as well as other videos on our YouTube site as well as our Facebook site that you should be able to access to kind of walk through the whole process from end to end and what it means to file.
Absolutely. And we've done this as a joint collaboration, Sara Sadat, myself, Jeff Jacobson. this week, every day this week, we have been on at 1:00. We'll continue to do so tomorrow. This actually, the time frame may change as we go on to subsequent weeks, just based on schedules and other commitments that we might have. But we will try to keep you very much up to date as to what's happening with that. It may be earlier in the morning, later in the day, but we'll try to get that out there a little bit in advance, because we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to get their questions answered so long as this information is needed. We have one more question coming in from Kate, who says, when trying to certify, it states weeks are being processed. Does that mean I don't have to do anything until next certifying date?
So you have to certify every 2 weeks. If you don't certify, you lose the benefits, and it actually would terminate your unemployment. So you definitely want to find out why it's stating that. That should allow you to certify. So you're going to need to call in and find out. And the problem with the current system is there isn't any consistency. All sorts of things are happening. So it's hard for me to do that. I also wanted to talk about, for some on overpayment, because this happens every once in a while when they're trying to certify or they don't receive their check. So if you were paid unemployment in the past and you were paid too much money according to the state, there's a whole process for them to recoup it. After they've sent you out a determination letter and you've not done anything, you haven't appealed in 30 days, it's now a judgment. And so they can go and enforce it. But one of the ways they enforce it is they just wait for you to someday file for unemployment benefits. And when you file, they'll then recoup all the money that they've paid you in the previous unemployment. So you may have filed 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, and all of a sudden you're waiting for your unemployment check, and they keep the money. So bear in mind, if that happens, you'll need to contact the state to find out why you're not getting your money, if it says you'll get a weekly benefit amount.
We have a few more questions coming in, and if you're just joining us, it looks like there's been another influx of a group. I want to remind you that you can actually click on the link above and ask your question yourself to Jeff Jacobson, and that's because if there's follow-up questions, you know the nuances of your particular circumstance a lot better than I would in terms of reading it. So we encourage you to dial on, but I am going to read a couple of questions that just came in. Randy asks, I am from Illinois, been furloughed by the hospital corporation I work for. My furlough starts Sunday, so I haven't filed yet. The site says there is a max payment of $484. 47% of my income is above that. Will I get more?
So yes and no, Randy. So there's a cap on unemployment benefits, a max amount you can get. If you have a non-working spouse, going off the top of my head now, it's a 9%. If you have dependent children, then you'll get, and I think it's 14.7%, but I'm going blank now on the percentage. You'll get more money for that. On top of that, if you get any unemployment benefits, and this is nationwide, you'll also get $600 a week. So that may or may not recoup your lost wages. But, as I said earlier, unemployment isn't designed to replace wages. It's designed to help you get through with the basic necessities in life. It's clearly not designed as a windfall at all. So, hopefully with the federal amount of money, which is $600, that'll help. And someone had asked on the website, they receive a check for $1,200 in their bank account. They wanted to know if that's the start of their unemployment benefits. You would have received unemployment benefits plus $600. My guess is that $1,200 was your stimulus check from the IRS, had nothing to do with unemployment. So you may not be receiving unemployment yet.
Okay. We do have a couple more questions, and while I do this, Sarah, if you could look through the, maybe you're watching this on our group, maybe you're not, but another resource that Jeff, myself, and Sarah have a kind of forum to help with the collaboration of this and to get questions answered is the Illinois, what is it called? Illinois Unemployment Guidance Group. I know a lot of people are kind of watching through that site, some are not, but that's another place where you can kind of get your questions answered. So, Sarah, I'll have you, while I look at these questions, kind of go through some of those questions to make sure that we've answered everything. Does that work? Is that
I think that's a good plan. Great plan, Raza.
Okay, so another question I have in the meantime is, let's see here.
So I'm going to ask Selena's. She asks, is it possible for them to run out of the $600 they are paying per week? Absolutely, Selena. It's possible that they're going to run out of all the unemployment money. I don't know, what the calculations are. The state would know on this, but it's not designed for this kind of needs. And the other thing is how it works is the employers get charged for the claims. So when someone files for unemployment, next year they calculate the taxes for 3 years with the employer to help supplement the fund for unemployment benefits. So typically the fund is always supplemented by the taxes from the employer. So we've got a couple things going on. We've got far more people filing. We have a lot of businesses that are going to be closing down, which means they won't be paying taxes next year. And I don't know what's going to happen. So that's an interesting question. It's something that we need to consider, that our legislatures need to be planning and preparing for, because it's going to be a problem. And now we're going to have employers, because of the claims, if their tax numbers go up, that's going to be another hardship for them the next 3 years, and they may not be able to survive that. So we need to make sure we've got everything worked out.
And that is an option you've probably heard quite a few times.
What's that?
Oh, never mind. The other thing, sorry, you said there were a couple of questions on your side?
Yeah, I think it was just around the time frames. If people have filed around the beginning of April, usually they certify the following week, and then they keep certifying. There really hasn't seen any checks coming in yet. Are there any delays from anybody? I know we spoke at length yesterday on these, but can you shed a little bit light into what the process is again, Jeff, and when they should be expecting some kind of money coming through? And especially on their cards, whether the cards are set up or not, but direct deposit, I think, as you have stated, was always the optimal way.
Right. So the basic process is you file for unemployment. The local office then checks should come out, or not checks, but deposits or money put in your debit card should happen right away, because these are necessity, essential of life expenses that they're helping with. They then notify the employer, and the employer can protest your claim. The employer can argue that there's a good reason why you're not working, but you shouldn't be entitled to unemployment benefits. Then the local office will look at that and make a determination, even though you're receiving money, as to whether you really are entitled to receive money or not. If the local office decides you're not entitled to receive money, they'll send you a letter, a local office determination, that you're not entitled to unemployment benefits, and they'll ask for the money back. And that's what we talked about earlier. Or they'll send you a letter, they've looked at the facts and they decided you are entitled to benefits, and so they'll send you a letter, you're entitled to benefits, this is when you need to certify, those kinds of things. If either party, the employer or the claimant, doesn't agree with the local office, they can then file an appeal. And the forms for Illinois are online. They're probably on every state online. And you need to file that appeal within 30 days of the local office determination. If you don't like the appeals determination, then you can file to the Board of Review. And let me step back because someone just asked this question. If the employer doesn't protest, but the local office decides that you're not entitled to benefits or that you do, once the time frame for the protest is expired, Illinois, it's 28 days, the employer can never appeal it. So the employer, after 28 days, is done with the case if they've never done anything. But if a party doesn't like the decision of the local office, they can appeal it. If a party doesn't like the decision of the appeal decision, then they can go to the Board of Review. If they don't like the decision of the Board of Review, they can appeal to an administrative review with the circuit court of the county that you live in. It's the appealing to the administrative review. There's no fee with the clerk. Or it's one of the few cases where the clerks of the court don't charge for it. The other thing is someone asked about they've exhausted their employment benefits. So you only get 26 weeks a year. So if you've already used up your 26 weeks, let's say February, you ended your 26 weeks, you won't be entitled to unemployment benefits. You won't have any wages in the last few quarters anyways. So that's why when you've exhausted your benefits, they tell you can't apply. Now you can apply in the future when the date expires, and you can call them and ask them the date for when you can apply again.
And Jeff, actually, as you were talking, the reason I stepped away is we've gotten some suggestions for all our listeners who are listening from Michigan about a way to get through to the unemployment there. We will try to either punch that up on the screen here or provide it as information on the unemployment group. As I stepped away, I don't know, did you have a chance, Jeff, to get to Liz White's question? I'm seeing that we had did not. Okay.
Right. I was talking about her. She's exhausted her benefits. She's used up 26 weeks. And there's one nuance. So if your 26 weeks runs out after March 29th, the federal government has extended the benefit period. So yours will be going more than 26 weeks. If it ended before then you're not entitled. So I don't know if they said on April 17th and you exhausted, you should be entitled to an extension. And that letter should have explained the extension. But they're sending out a letter that says your unemployment benefits have been exhausted, but they just mean the state benefits, not the federal. And it should happen automatically for the federal to be extended. If not, call in because April 17th is way past the March 29th date.
Jeff, is
so
there any
good question? You should be able to still receive money, and you would be receiving the $600 a week also.
Jeff, we're approaching our hour mark here. Is there anything you want to say to clarify to our Illinois viewers about the specifications with the gig workers that's coming up with independent contractors? Anything that people in general need to know? And then any kind of thoughts that you want to leave people with until we resume this tomorrow at 1:00?
So I don't have any information. I'm hoping that maybe tomorrow we'll have a little more information for the gigs workers. There was, and I apologize, I think I have it. So there's the teleserve pamphlet, and let me just see if I can flash this on, although it's probably going to be small. Whoops. Apologize. This is my first time doing it, so
No worries.
Let me share the screen with everyone so that you have it. Let's get that Chrome tab. I think that's it. I
Sorry, we
apologize
didn't
if it's
set up
not.
to share
There
the.
it goes. So I can do it from my screen, right?
Yeah, it
See
looks
it?
like you certainly
No?
can. Perfect.
Yeah. So under the teleserve, this is a pamphlet you can get online. It's CL I-113, and it tells you how to go through and certify. But here's the nice thing. Let's go down here. It tells you what to do if you miss and how to do it. But here's the questions you're going to be asked. So have you received or will you receive holiday pay? Did you work during the period? Has your dependency status changed? So I know someone, their spouse went back to work. Were you able and available to work each week? So that would be if you're staying at home because COVID-19, you are able and available pursuant to the new definition. Did you actively look for work for the week of Sunday? So because of COVID-19, and if your job is, if you've been laid off, you obviously need to be actively looking for work. But if the work's there, then you've been actively looking. You're just sitting, waiting for the governor's stay-at-home order to be dropped. So I highly recommend you give it a shot. Look at that before you certify. It's got all the information you can need. At least helps with that.
Fantastic. Mandy's got a question. Mandy, I'm about to punch you on screen. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready. All righty. Mandy, you got a question?
Yeah. I had a phone interview today at 12:30 and no one even called me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So they should call you. So the phone interview means, so the first step is what's happened is you've applied for unemployment benefits. They normally would grant it immediately, but the employer may have protested, may have said you're not entitled to it, or there's some confusion on something you've submitted that's causing a problem. So the local office is going to contact you to ask you some questions onto your unemployment. The fact they didn't call, I don't know if they're far behind. I don't know if they forgot. If you don't get a call today, you can try to call them.
Yeah, I'm not having any luck with calling because I haven't been able to certify for benefits
Right,
since
so
I
I
got
don't-
these letters.
Right. So you've been denied right from the beginning?
No, it says I was approved. Oh, I got 3 different letters last week. One of them was a questionnaire to send back. One was a phone interview, and one was a approval letter, and they were all mailed the same date.
Okay. So I would probably Friday, probably tomorrow, call in to see what the status is. Everyone's overwhelmed, so I don't know if the local office forgot or were unable to. You need to make sure your phone's working. I know my experience, sometime people would give me their cell phone number, and then it turned out their cell phone wasn't on or they weren't in good coverage area. So you want to make sure of that. But follow up on that.
And Jeff, I'm just going to have to, we're going to have to resume this tomorrow at 1:00 because as it's very common these days, this has become a shared workspace, and the kids have to do their elementary school phone conferences. So they have reserved the Life, Love, and the Grind studio, which is the podcast studio that we've kind of been using here. So they're about ready to boot me. So we're going to resume this again tomorrow at 1:00. If there's any more questions, I know, Jeff, you are actively checking the Illinois unemployment guidance Facebook group page as well to answer some, and that we also answer those questions on our shows here. So we'll continue to do that. Thank you to everyone who joined in. We'll continue to get those questions answered. Jeff, is there any last thoughts or?
Stay healthy and be persistent with calling. That's really all I can do.
That's great advice. And I'll see you tomorrow, Jeff. Talk to everyone later. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye from Sara Sadat. Bye-bye.